down that thing on the roof. It's not a hard thing to do, is like the roof.
Yeah, right. Well, you would be surprised because this is all the roof paperwork we found. Thank you, Trevor. This is the skylight paperwork that I found so far. So I have not got to go through all of it yet. But there's a lot of interesting history.
That's just the skyline.
This is just the skylight. It is more comprehensive than the roof.
And they, when they did the roof, did they put the skylight in at that point, or was there an existing?
No. So the original roof from '92 had a skylight in it. The skylight was replaced in 2008. The roof was redone in 2017. So there was and I'm still not positive on all the details yet, but there was actually an arbitration because the architect who did the skylight did it incorrectly. So when we had it redone, the library won an arbitration with the architect and they paid to have it redone. So I think that's why the paperwork is so copious.
Is it still leaking? Is it leaking recently?
Not immediately recently because we've been a little bereft of rain, but when it rains, it leaks. I sent an email out about talking to our most recent architect, BRMA, and they posited they're like, when you replace the skylight, it's extraordinarily likely that they didn't clean the adhesive off. So they put new adhesive on top of old adhesive, which means that whatever the new adhesive's timeline is relevant because the old adhesive is past it. Yeah. So that is what they think happened because they were very definitive that it was not the roof. Okay. So they're gonna come Friday and we'll go up and actually take a look at
I'll
it.
see if I can get here. I don't want to miss a roof tour. Pictures worth 1,000 words, so if you can see it once, then it's all about it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so in terms of where does that, in your discussion with them, where does it leave us in terms of, if it's this or this, the solution is what is the range of solutions that they might be operating?
Yeah, so the first thing they want to do is they want to do a pressure test and they would want to essentially spray the skylight with water, try to simulate rain, try to see where the leak is. If the leak is what they think it is, and it is in fact the skylight, then we would be looking at replacing the glass in the skylight because that's where they think the leak is. I think that's probably the best case scenario is that it is the glass in the skylight because if it's not, it could be a gasket, it could be something in the inner working of the skylight, or it could be the roof. We haven't ruled that out yet. Roof is the worst case scenario. Glass on the skylight is probably the second worst case scenario, and inner workings of the skylight is the third worst
Did
scenario.
they give any cost on that?
No, however, replacing the skylight in 2008 cost $95,000, which was paid through the arbitration settlement. So add inflation to that.
We don't need to replace the whole roof, quarter of the way, that back there.
Yeah.
This is a much smaller, it's much smaller amount to picture the roof.
And the roof was 2017?
2016 or 17.
That wasn't too long ago.
No, and it should still be within the lifespan, because when BRMA did the analysis of the building for the expansion, they had a document where they outlined what they believe the status of the roof was. And at that point, they said your roof needs no work. However, they did identify the skylight as a potential. They were like, we think it's at the end of its life. So they notified the board at that time. I'm not sure where that discussion went. I'm still digging. But yeah, so it sounds like it won't be the worst case scenario. The other good news is, so if it's a repair, if something is broken, then we don't qualify for grant funding through New York State. New York State doesn't cover facilities repairs. They consider that maintenance. If we choose to improve the skylight. Now we're eligible for grant funding. And the architects kind of, BRMA drilled in on that very directly. They were like, we do 15, 20 grant funded projects a year for libraries in New York State. And they said, we will help you if that's the path you want to go.
That be through the upper Hudson or it's not.
Yeah, because they're the distributors of the grant funding. So yeah, that's better. Who writes it? So it would be our responsibility to have it written. I don't know that we have the expertise on staff. I'm not a grant writer. We could probably pay the architects and have it done correctly. It's all something else that I don't know what our options are, but something I was curious about is, how every year we declare, our newspaper of record, our legal team of record, and then we don't bid out every legal opinion we need. Is that an option? Can we declare an architect or architect of record and not bid out? Or should we bid out every one of our jobs? Because the RMA has the inside track, they know our building inside and out.
When you said the expansion, was there an architect record for that?
No, I believe we bid it out,
Okay.
I think they responded to an RFP. I'd have to look into that, but I'm pretty positive. But, it's like, as a best practice, we probably, to be fiscally responsible, we should be getting RFPs for all of these jobs, but it adds a lot of time and labor to each project we do.
I'm in favor of. At the same point in time, nobody really has a huge amount of experience in evaluating, even when you do a really big project like the for us with innovation. Nobody has a comparison in their head pocket or in their experience base to say, was that a good job or was it a little bit bad? Something that's sort of dust. Tools the way it is in the US because I think it's trustees who go on to explicit. And then product like record. This is why many things that we're working on. Then let's get that done.
Oh, no worries.
It may be able to help with the grant funding, have experience with that. Sure. Maybe able to assist with that.
Yeah.
I've written lots of grants for libraries.
Sure.
I'm just offering.
Got some expertise there. That's good. Tony, we're talking a little bit about what I learned about the roof.
Oh, okay, great.
So from talking to the architect, they are going to come Friday and take a look at the roof.
Okay.
They don't think the roof is leaking. They think the skylight's leaking.
Which architect was it?
BRMA, the folks who did the expansion. Yeah. But they're going to verify that. We'll do a pressure test and we'll actually try to suss out what the issue is.
Yeah.
I pulled our paperwork from the last time the skylight was fixed, which was 2008. It was apparently installed incorrectly in 1992. So we won an arbitration settlement in 2008 to get it replaced at a cost of $95,000, a little bit less. I think 92,000 of it was covered by the arbitration. So that kind of gives us a ballpark of if we need to replace it, what we're looking at. And from talking to BRMA, they've said very specifically, if you just do repairs, that doesn't count for grant funding. But if you do an improvement, now it's eligible. But we'll know a little bit more hopefully about what the actual issue is. And then we were discussing as a best practice, if the same way we have a legal team of record, if we should look into having an architect or a building person of record who we contract with, or if we should bid out these projects individually. So that, I think that's where we got. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, again, I'm pretty comfortable with the architects at BRMA. I think the work that they did do, that they take accountability for, they did a solid job. I'm still looking into the architects. It was a different architecture firm that did our roof and a different architecture firm that did our skylight. So, we've had mixed results.
I think you sort of look at the context of, a big project like the renovation. I think smaller ones that are more ongoing maintenance. And this project probably one of the group of factories and put them in the factories. Once again, I just don't think anybody really has the skill set they need to have to manage this and make control of the costs.
Yeah.
And so everything that comes up is a huge one-off. I just don't know if you did one out and you get a cheaper guy, that's gotta go with the cheaper guy, but how skillful you're gonna be able to deal with them on the part plan. And that to me is always the issue with what truck costs, because how do you manage the change?
Yeah.
Don't know how to renovate their. The renovation project, it was like, I think, 1% set aside for contingency and we pretty much hit 20% contingency. I don't know. We don't know in terms of, project mismanagement of this magnitude, how a 20% comparison in terms of the upfront and being able to anticipate things or to maybe your upfront was good enough or good enough that these contingency things kept popping up and we kind of say anything to they don't know how to evaluate it.
Right.
Tony, you have any experience with that? You have any, reflections on that in the renovation project when you're dealing with RMI, or you were involved in that?
Not really, no, wasn't directly involved in that.
And it's something where we're not alone. I've gone through some other construction projects in previous jobs, and part of it is, I'm not gonna say it's like you're giving it up to chance, but part of that's that risk of you go with the most responsive bidder or the lowest responsive bidder, and then you evaluate at the end and say, like, are we satisfied or are we dissatisfied?
I had some experience in my GE days of dealing with some pretty big construction contracts, and I had to deal with the GE project managers who had expertise in this. But my experience wasn't even with the greatest expertise. This is a really slippery fish to deal with any construction project. Going with the lowest bidder is not always. I always thought looking at the number two guy would be the more appropriate way to go because there's something that you're missing is the lowest guy.
Yep.
And there is also to be agreed to that. And then they will find out. So, what do you think? What's anybody else's idea on this? Would you want to go with a non-bid engineer for making repair types of issues, or do you think we need to? What would you? Let's just go to the full board of trustees for a vote. How would you want to position yourself?
Like your idea of having like a set one.
Mhm.
Yes, come an architect to do for everything.
And we could do we could do terms. We could say like for the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to go with this architect and then we'll look again.
Because it seems like we had trouble like having different people do it. It's kind of like got messed up. Like, so if we get one company that seems pretty good, then hopefully they'll go fix everything and do it correctly. There won't be problems.
Well, and in theory, the benefit of having an architect on retainer is, Jason and I struggled with even just getting somebody to come and give us a quote. That then becomes the architect's problem,
Yeah.
Like you said, they have expertise, building and stuff. Have some another outside company come in, they don't know the building. Yeah.
And the RMA, they took it was Paul Mays, who I spoke to, one of the partners, who I think was the lead partner on the renovation. And he explicitly said he takes a great deal of pride in this building. Like he talks about this building, and he's going to need this respective client. it's in their reputational best interest that we're happy.
How, how do we have to manage this? We have, this is something we have to put on that the facilities committee would recommend. We'll go to recommend that we pursue this option.
I think we can take this in bites. I think the first thing this committee needs to recommend to the board is, do we want to proceed with having this architect firm diagnose the skylight at the very least, diagnose the roof problem? It's a separate, I think it's a separate issue between having somebody diagnose the issue and then deciding who's going to be responsible for repairing it. I don't know that we have to commit right now and say like we're committing to this group repairing it. But at the very least, I expect it will exceed my expenditure authority, so we'll need a board vote on the funding.
Okay, so the secret would be, you know, the army agent diagnosis, that's the better than that. Then to do repair.
Yeah, exactly.
We're lucky we've had a dry fall after a wet spring.
And yeah, that was another piece of it, is in speaking to the architects, they said it might not feel like winter, but as far as they're concerned, we've entered winter. So the repair could be done before spring anyway. They wouldn't be advising to repair it in the winter. Yeah, if it is in fact the best case scenario and we're just doing repairs on the skylight, we're replacing the glass, that would be great. Like, I would be delighted. We confirmed that the roof itself is from 2016 or 2017, so nobody thinks it's the roof at this point.
What's the next item that you would have us discuss today?
Sure, so this is a contentious one, and I'm not sure how we'll feel about this, but the other thing I asked the architects about was the Norman Skill, the cafe space. And I get periodic questions from, or remarks from the public or from the board about like, are we going to do another cafe? What's the plan? I think it's on my personnel evaluation to actually make a decision about what we're doing with that space. So I asked for a couple of options from the architects. I asked them, what would it take to convert it into a full, properly functioning cafe? And what are other things we could do with the space? Something that's really important to me, as we've talked about in this committee, is there's a lot of good ideas. There's a lot of things we could do. We've only got one room to work with. So I think a flexible space is probably our best option, something that can be a meeting room or a programming space or an educational space. So I asked for options on that as well. Like, if we wanted to convert it to a flexible space, what would that look like? And I'm also open to, and we've talked about the long range plan, as we reach out to the community and try to get them to guide us in what their needs are, we should probably ask some facilities-based questions of the public, either in a survey or here at the library, and take their temperature on, like, which do you prefer, a book sale or a bookstore, a cafe or a meeting room? Just try to gauge what their priorities are.
No, we have another company that's interested, or even mentioned it, or I'm sure somebody, there's just on like the email thread, they were talking about it.
There's been a couple of folks who've reached out, kind of just curiosity of what we're going to do with space. I'll be direct. I don't think a commercial cafe is in our best interests. From talking to the architects, I said, what would it take? And they said, you need to replace the HVAC and you need to replace the fire suppression. They didn't give me a quote, but they said off the top of their head, it starts at $40,000 to $50,000 to turn it into a viable commercial cafe.
I liked your idea of having it as another meeting room or an event space, or like the other room for use it for different things the library needs.
Well,
Yeah.
And an option that I've been kicking around is I don't entirely want to abandon the idea, because I think there is, I was actually at a Seniors Connect meeting today at the library. They were talking about food and nutrition. there is an educational component where if we didn't abandon the idea of cooking, that if we converted the HVAC and kept some cooking equipment in there, we could do cooking classes, nutrition classes, community kitchen as an option. But we would, if we do anything cooking wise in there, we really need to look at the HVAC.
There's a book club that does cooking. Yeah, so they can use it too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then, you know, there is the title room, kitchen. You know, that's an ultimate, close, you can't gather around and see people cooking, so like somebody, you make your stuff up out there and then bring it in, put it in the oven and cook stuff, but you can't get class in that.
You can't do education in there. The, I don't know if anybody's gone to King Arthur Baking in Vermont. They have a test kitchen. Of course, they're King Arthur Baking, so it's fancy. But they have ovens on the side for the actual baking. They have a front counter where the instructor like kneads the dough and demonstrates the baking. And they essentially have a camera pointing down at it and then TVs along the side of the room so that people at the cooking stations can watch along and knead bread or do that kind of thing. I'm intrigued by that idea because it can be useful for any program where you're making something with your hands. So cooking, collage, macrame. If we went that route and used it as a training space or an education space, we could also do computer classes in there. People could look at code on the TVs. There'd be more options. Right now, I'm like in the blue sky phase. I'm thinking like, what are all the things we can do with the room? And that's why I think engaging the community is also a good idea.
I think that's absolutely good. And then, you know, you can't forget the community, but also the entire GPL staff.
Yes.
Because if I, at the end of the day, my two days, it's a staff and it's a couple. Depending on, whether it's, I don't want it to be the trustees or going in this direction.
Absolutely. So I think it's one of those things that I asked the architect if they were interested in giving proposals. And they are, they would be interested in helping us kind of think about what the space could be. But again, it would be something where we might want to bid that out.
Absolutely. We do have the equipment that's in there. I don't think it's not that. Useful that is in terms of the spaces that you're talking, and we can hold on to it for a little while. Still sure this doesn't actually.
I think some of the pieces in there are useful. The oven's useful, the cooktop is useful. The coffee machines are probably not useful for our purposes, but that's the thing that I keep hearing from the community. So like, we would like coffee, you know? So finding a way to solve that, I think would make people happy.
Yeah, I was up in Saratoga today. I went to the Saratoga Library. You went to the, anybody have a chance to go?
No, I want to go up there.
Okay, so I just have a few pictures. I don't want to go too conspicuous. I don't want to have to say I am going to one and I'm trying to solve our. They just say I didn't have that one. So I just took a couple of pictures, and one of them, you see the opening, the doorway to it. One of them, you see the business hours. You'll see a Falun Gong poster, which this is as you go down the hallway, as you come in the doorway there, just a couple of tables, and you can see there's a rack with some chips on it.
Did they have a vending machine? Is that what you said?
They don't have a vending machine, but everything that they sell could be just as easily put inside of a vending machine. They have the books, like kids' books, you know, along the corner here that they sell. The books are for sale, so they put them out there in the space for kids, but then you can see there's no kids in there. And then this is a wide angle shot of from that corner looking, here's the entrance over here, the far side. They have a couple pots of coffee like you see in the Stewart's. You can walk down. They have soup of the day, and then over here they have soft food stand, and then there's some baskets on the counter that have some food that just may as well be a vending machine. It's the same type of thing you get out of it. But there was like, you know, a couple people from the library there, one of the guys from the bookstore. Then I walked down and I took a picture of the bookstore. So you can see the bookstore, how big it is. It's the awnings. You know, there's 3 awnings there. It's that long. Then there are hours. And this is how wide it is there. So that's what I took pictures on. Because, from a pricing point of view, the most expensive thing they had there was soup for $5 a cup. Coffee was $3 a cup, pastries were 2, and chips were 1. And maybe soft drinks or somewhere in between, nothing was more expensive than coffee.
It's like way cheaper than going out somewhere. So
I know it is, but they, like I said, everything that was in there that they had for sale probably fit the vending machines outside of there. That it's that, the coffee in the containers, you know, it's a big space and it's just not, it's an awkwardly shaped space. It's just not, both the times I've been in there, as much as they try to make it look like it has in life, this doesn't.
And is it all funded by their friends group?
Yeah, they had a sign in there looking for volunteers, you know. Both the operation, but
Yeah, and I mean, I respect that I wasn't here for a lot of the cafe, and I don't fully understand everything that went into it or the emotions attached to it. But I just can't see a viable path with a commercial cafe in there, and I think it would upset the staff.
I don't see it either. I don't see it. But I don't see a viable path for a friends style cafe, because I just think it's a big use of space that we're always trying to find volunteers to do something. There are some decent vending machine coffee services, you know, when I go to get my car service, they have a pretty nice setup there, and you can choose between hot chocolate and various types of coffee, and you know, people could just buy that here just as easily. With its fresher than it's down there in the sink. So I can also send around, you know, I did as part of the cafe study that I did, I came across a Forbes article on, so you want to start a cafe. Okay, but it has all the steps that you need. Sort of daunting to look at what it takes to do something. I just don't think this is the whole viable. It's probably. So I'll be open to see what BRM up with.
So I think in terms of next steps for the full board, I don't know if I need permission to engage the architect into giving us some proposals or looking at or exploring some other options. But I do think that sooner rather than later, we need to get a consensus with the board of what direction we go in.
Yeah, how much do they want to give you?
We've not discussed pricing yet. I can get an estimate or like a ballpark of how much they would charge us to come up with a proposal. Mostly this was a temperature taking meeting to make sure that they weren't interested at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're only going to get more questions from interested vendors, more questions from the community. So at some point,
I mean, do you have people, when they're interested in what's going to, but are people coming in saying, I want to operate that?
no one has come in and said they want to operate it. I've had a couple of vendors who were like, what are you going to do with that space? Like kind of
Then the
nocturne cookies was one, nocturnal cookies, something like that. It was, I talked to the owner and let them know like, hey, the board's still discussing that we haven't made decisions, but from her business model, it sounded like she did like late night cookie delivery. So it's intriguing, but I'm not sure their business model fits what we do. But the others have just been cold calls from individuals who are like, I represent a restaurant or I own a restaurant, but they haven't gone into detail. No one has said like, if you're looking, we would like to bid or anything like that. And that's not to say that like, you know, there are other options that if we want to partner with food vendors, like I've seen libraries do food trucks in the parking lot, you know, food truck day. I think we have to get at what the community need is, and then rather than asking the question of do you want a cafe or do you want food, it's like, what are you looking to get from this? Because if people just want coffee to make their hangout a little more pleasurable, that's a very different solution that can be solved with Keurig or a Stewart's pump, you know? We already, our current, it's interesting, the governance committee is going to have to look at our library use policy because it still says we don't allow food. And that's just something we don't enforce. We do let people eat in the library. So I think it's a question of if people are looking for a snack, how can we provide it?
Yeah, because you have the vending machine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of incongruous that we're like, yeah, we don't allow food, but here, buy a soda. You know?
We just had that reader treat and kids earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah, so- Yeah.
Those are the big two items that I've been kind of working on. Some of the other things, we've talked about bookstores and we've talked about art.
I have a lot of updates with that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, go for it.
and so I reached out to Voorheesville with some of the questions you guys had, and they said that the sheds have electricity for lights and ceiling fans, but they don't have heat or air conditioning or climate control, and they don't need it because the sheds are like, they don't get insects in there, they don't get water damage. And then in the winter, it just stays cold and dry, so they have books in there, they don't get damaged. They also said that during the winter, they kind of weed down the collection and bring some of it in the library and sell some of it. So they don't have a lot in this sheds during the winter. And then they restock it in the spring when it's warmer. So they kind of keep tight nabs on it and make sure nothing is happening to the books and they're checking them. But what they've said though is they haven't had any problems. So that was just some of the questions we had that you guys had. So I reached back out to them to say,
That's more of a storage facility than it is a cell.
yeah, they sell mostly from the canopies. That's why I brought up that idea. The canopies, they bring everything out of it, or they bring it into the library and they sell it. They don't sell it in the shed. They just store everything in the shed and sell it outside of it.
How often do they sell the canopies?
I think they only have 2 book sales a year.
So only during the book sales.
Yeah, that's when they would set up the canopies. And other times they put it in the library, the books and sell books. So I was just trying to figure out more of what they
How
did.
many do they have on display in the library for sale? In terms of comparable?
It's about the same. It's inside their like front entrance. They have like bookcases and they just put the books there during the winter. And they, they sell them there. And if they run out, they just go back out to the shed and get more. And but they also said they stopped accepting donations during the winter because they don't want to keep filling up the book shed during the winter. So they start accepting donations in the spring again. So that way they have books from before, but they're in the shed and they just kind of get rid of those. And then in the spring, they get all the new books. So they try to manage it pretty tightly so there's not too much in there. Because they want new books and they want new donations. I just reached out with some of those questions. That was about the book sheds. In regards to I'm in a lot of the book clubs here, and one of the foundation members was at the Reader's Treat event, and I talked with her at the book club, so I'm going to talk to her next week. And I'm going to, at least wants me to go to the next foundation meeting, and just to talk about some of these ideas and like setting up maybe a friends group and helping to get volunteers. I was thinking of having like high school kids, maybe do a work study thing and join the friends group. So then we'll have different ages helping out. And then if we have book sales, we could have them help at the book sales or things like that. So I'm just going to talk about some of the ideas and present some of the things in December at the foundation meeting. So I want to get more volunteers because we can't do any of this if we don't have a friends group, if we don't have volunteers, if we don't have and I want there to be I feel like there should be a wide range of ages too. We don't want to put it all on the older population. That's what I heard most of the foundation is. That's hard. Like if we have a whole group, different ages, then they can work together and there might be more
Are you
volunteers.
trying to get the foundation to become the friends group?
That's what I was going to suggest. I was going to say, can we form a friends group instead and then talk about the book sales and things that we were thinking of having them do. Instead of relying on the golf thing that they do and things like that, there's other ways you can be a friends group and make money, raise money and stuff without doing the golf.
Mhm.
Because that seems like they have trouble with that. It's an event that seems like they've been struggling with. So if they can do book sales or something else, that might make them more, give them more of the plan. But I like the idea of having a friends group instead of,
Things like this.
yeah, like it should be. So I want to like bring all that up and see how they react to it. And kind of, and just a suggestion, just say this is kind of something we were talking about, and these are the ideas we have. And Alicia, I can just come and, do that. She'll be there too. So she'll help me with it, maybe that. So that was with the book sheds. With the art, it's exciting because we've had 4 kids reach out to me directly. And one of them has sent me like pictures of their artwork. So they're all creating the art and they're going to send us pictures. And then I can show you guys the pictures once I have all the art. And the art club director is getting more kids. If she said there'll be more kids that are interested. So they're directly like creating the art right now. They're jumping right into it. So they want to they like the idea of creating something that they can mount in the library, not a mural, not anything like that. So some of them are making sculptures. Some of them have done photographs. Some of them are doing digital art. Some of them are doing paintings. So they're doing all kinds of different art, not just like one type of art, everything. So, but they're interested, and we have 4 kids right now that are making stuff. The one girl's had like 10 things, so she's making more. So I got in there and they're excited about it. So I'm kind of jumping on it. I know we want to do it like in the long range planning, but if they create the art, at least we can look at it and we can pick which ones we like or what we want to put up. And I just the art club director really wanted like them to have like their name by the art too. That would be fine. I don't see a problem with that.
No,
So,
I was sort of thinking along these lines too. It's, every year we have the various schools put their artwork in here and the people walk around. But there's no reason why some of that art, and some of it's really fascinating stuff. But, moved on display into the water, always here. The same thing with the art that's in there right now. I mean, every time I go through here and look at art, it's very notebook. You have some individuals, one of my neighbors, people in my neighborhood, has had a display here. She's a very good artist, Noel. Then people, the photography, comes up. And, I just think people would like it to sort of, some select pieces to migrate into the spaces here, but every year you sort of like refresh.
yeah, the art club director said that he's like, we could cycle it out. We could have new kids submit stuff and put that up. But so they seem like they want to do like a partnership. That's why I kind of jumped on it because they seem interested in it. So like, and I don't want to lose that chance. I don't want to not do it. And then
The big archway here is come in, there's the pipe that comes up the middle of it, but, the high school could develop, like their senior class, like, here's our senior class artwork for this year, and at the end of the day, it comes down, at the end of, then the junior class comes in and puts up their thing for their senior year. So you sort of have to change the art that takes up that space, and you can have a constant idea of this is what this class graduating from Little High School or other schools in America. It really wants to stay.
the one girl had really cool pictures she took of the high school. So that's like a place in Guilderland. So we put one of those up here because it's a high school. So like they're doing, I kind of give them some ideas of like what kinds of things that we were looking for, just so they know. So I told them about like how you wanted like the sculptured fish going around the aquarium, things like that. So they're okay, yeah, we could do that. So they're into it. They want to do it. And so I was just excited because we wanted this. We wanted some kind of art. We wanted something in the library because it is boring. I'm sorry. It's white walls. It's very sorry. I think it's just like boring. It's just compared to other libraries you go in where they have like posters everywhere and art and different things. I'm like, we don't have any of that. So
No, I think, not just the high school, but I think it should be, there are various, like I said, artists and communities that can really like.
And I'm talking to the main art director of the Guilderland School District, so I could branch it out and ask for middle school or elementary too. Because I have the main person I'm talking with, so she could reach out to them too if you wanted to, and get it more.
Well, sure, and I'm
Yeah.
having lunch next week with, the head of the Gilroy Chamber of Commerce. So, forming these partnerships, I think will be a good idea. This could be a good pilot project, because we are gonna need some more infrastructure and MOAs. The term that the art's gonna be at, we need to designate the places it's going, kind of like, we don't wanna get in a dispute with people who are like, well, how come their picture's over there and mine's over here? So I'll have to button a few of those things up. But I think as far as a pilot goes, like, I think test driving this in a few spots in the library is not a bad idea.
But I think so.
They're interested like in the teen, the young adult
Exactly.
area, they want to put it over there. So like the one girl drew like pictures of characters at books and stuff, so like, I mean, so they got some really interesting things they're working on, so. I would just fill up just that entrance there to the young adult area, just put something there so that it'd be.
Yeah, I think we should keep cultivating this partnership, and I think the team here can throw together some of the paperwork that we need for this, like waivers and, permission to hang their art, and, limited liability if somebody tears down the painting, or like it's not liable, that kind of thing. We'll also run by the legal team, obviously, but I think next step is we should probably identify where we want to test drive some of this stuff and strike, keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I just got excited because I know before they tried to reach out to the high school and the high school just said no.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty aggressive, so I just went to like a main person. They're like, it's a good idea. Let me talk to the art club director. Let's talk to the kids. And they just jumped on it. So like, I don't give up when I get like a project, but like, so I'm pretty like, I want it to happen. I want the kids to, because they'll be so proud when we can say that we have the Gilliland School District, we have middle school down there. Their art is up in the library.
Yeah.
Instead of saying like we hired some company to spend $8,000 to paint something on the ceiling and the wall or whatever, that's not the same.
I think it's a good idea.
And it will save us money. We don't have to pay them. It's
I
like,
don't think that the city,
yeah,
engage with them privately.
yeah.
And we can refresh it. We'll keep the interest on.
And the good thing is out of the 4 we have so far, there's 2 guys and 2 girls.
Right.
So we're getting like not just one gender involved. And this is just the start. So.
But something you just touched on, I think it's important to center the library in the community. And, that's why it's important that we host voting here, why we do farmers market. It's a reason, like, I don't know if these kids are library users or if their families are, but it's another reason to encourage people to come to the library. And maybe they'll check out a book by accident while they're here. That'd be great.
They come to see their friends' art and then they, oh, here's a book. Or I'm going to go on the computer.
Here's a mixer that I can borrow. Tony, what do you think? You've been deep in thought.
No, I think that's a good idea, yeah.
Is there anything we need to say to the board about this? There's no approvals or anything to say you're talking and dropping ideas.
Yeah, I think just making sure, take their temperature, make sure everyone's on board, see if they have any other thoughts. Maybe somebody knows somebody else in the art community. Yeah.
And I was going to bring it up at the long range, but Corey wants me to wait a little bit. So I'm going to talk about it at that committee too.
Okay.
A little bit, just so they have an idea. Because we had talked about letting them know about it, so I wanted to let them know what we're going to do with that,
Sure.
just so they, have an idea. Yeah.
And to circle back for a minute to talk about bookstores and book sales again, some of the anecdotal feedback I've heard from the public is that we, I guess, used to do a monthly book sale in
That's what I was thinking about.
That might be more reasonable. We're doing a twice-a-year book sale because then we can do some more Voorheesville and do a donation drive, or be like, we're accepting donations for 2 weeks and then we're going to sell them. Anything we don't sell, we're going to recycle. That might be an easier lift than trying to stand up a bookstore, try to have a permanent operation.
And I feel like if we have a friends group and we have enough volunteers, we can do stuff like that. We can have a monthly book sale.
It becomes a
Because
much
we-
shorter commitment.
Yeah, because if we have 10 high school kids join and we have all these people on, that will give us people to do the book sales.
And the storage is still a major,
Yeah.
not a major concern here, but like storage is at a premium. It's a little bit of an easier ask to be like, we're gonna store books for a couple of weeks somewhere in the building.
Yeah.
And, than to store them for months on end.
Where did we, you probably, for the facility renovation, where did we store books then?
It was all in the entrance.
Some of it in the entrance, we had.
Yeah.
Possible we store them.
I'm sorry.
I think we had a shed at some point too. We keep talking about that. Nobody was adding to it though.
There is a shed back there, but we use it for like landscaping supplies.
There's another one. I thought it was in the secondary parking lot out there before. Yeah, I remember though.
And if you wanted to get a shed, I could go like meet with that. I know a company that works with you, St. Colony.
Yeah.
So like if you ever wanted to go that route, we could go meet with them and see what prices would be. You know, I'm just,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and I think before we make that commitment, almost again, doing a proof of concept, being like, if we ask for donations, will we get them? If we ask for volunteers, will we get them? And if we do a sale, will people come? You know?
I feel like we will get the donations because that little book house is always so full. And people, the books donation thing over there, people leave books out outside of it. I'm like, the library could grab those and we could sell those, like instead of them being recycled or.
Mhm.
So I feel like I always see boxes of books like outside the thing over there. And they get all wet and then they get destroyed and then they can't be sold or used or, you know, so if we had somewhere to store them, then they wouldn't get destroyed and the library could make money, and the friends could make money, you know, they could raise money.
Yeah, no, it's what I heard informally from one patron, so I don't know how true this is, but he was like, oh, you used to make a ton of money doing monthly book
So that's
sales.
not true. We vetted that. Wasn't that much.
It's not true.
I don't remember monthly. I only remember this twice a week, twice a year once. So it wasn't more than the year, I think it was maybe 10 grand.
Okay.
So it was definitely less than 20.
We could price the books like you said, like
Give more
more.
quality, things I drove by here, seeing on the sign, fairly frequent book sales. I always thought it was like a month. Because I just, I said, I got a book sale in the never.
But so we've already looked into this, Tony. It's already like settled law. We vetted how much we made.
Yes, it wasn't, I forgot, even when Tim was still here, maybe it was less, it was definitely less than, he was putting out numbers that were way more, and then the next meeting, I forgot what the treasurer was afterwards, but, it was Jackie or somebody looked it up, but it wasn't that much.
But if you're signing a dollar a book.
Yeah, it was.
I like your idea of doing 3 or 5,
Yeah,
like
but
the newer ones.
see what's my book on our shelf today up or over there.
Yeah.
You remember that was 5.
Yeah. That would double the sales if you had more.
No, I think we're really doing a disservice to the public.
Yeah.
Who's making this available, this space and these resources available.
Yeah.
We could just sell that $1. It's just too much to give away.
And, you know, when we look at the census data, the median household income is going up. That's not to say that everyone is benefiting from that, but I think there are people in this community who would be okay with a higher price point. And it's not like we're pricing, it's not like they're $20.
Yeah.
Some of the books are $30. They charge $3 for it.
There's
It's a steal, like.
That was the comment I probably received a few times during the summer. Book sale, this is just so new, why is it only $1? It's almost like, you guys are wasting time here.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we do that all the time. We're good at it. Like the certiorari, our contribution to the certiorari.
Right, yeah. So I think, you know, again, something where we don't need to jump straight to bookstore and something that we probably should take the community's temperature on a little bit through the long range planning. But in the meantime, we could again look at experimenting in the spring and being like, we will accept donations for 2 weeks, we'll do a sale, we'll see what happens.
Anything new on ventilation HVAC or the roof gas smell or anything like that?
Gas smell's been fine. We haven't had any incidents of scent in the building.
Filter in it?
I don't know if we put them in yet, but I believe they came, so we're still watching that situation. So nothing new on the HVAC in that regard. You know, so far, fingers crossed, everything's going well. Aside from the things that aren't going well. You know?
Snowplow contract in place?
Say again?
We have our snowplow contract in place?
We sure do. Yep, snow plows, snow salting, we're ready to go. We've test driven the emergency messages to staff, so in case there's a snow event, we're ready to alert the staff, we're ready to update the sign. I learned how to update the school board, so I joke that we did all this work and it won't snow, you know, but we're ready.
Every year there's been less and less.
But yeah, Jason and I actually spoke to the service that does the plowing and salting, just to make sure that, you know, they plow when it's over 2 inches, but they salt regardless, and so the parking lot will be in good shape.
That facility that was put up on the side of the cafe for sitting down drinking coffee. Does that have a roof on it?
I don't think the roof has to come down, but it does have an overhang there.
Fabric or is it
I have not looked. I will take a
I
look.
don't know how the snow like there is.
We will take a look at that.
Anybody got anything else?
I just want to mention the high school too with the art. They said they're going to give the kids like work study hours and community hours, and it's going to benefit them that way too.
Great.
So that's another thing they're going to apply to it.
Do we need to do anything for that? We sign off on slips or anything for them?
They said no, but yeah, they're just going to use it for that. They said
Good.
too.
Good. Thanks for your work with Voorheesville and the high school.
Like back in Britain.
All right, so we're all done.
I think so. That's everything I got.
Next meeting is what, next Thursday? Board meeting?
Yes. Yep.
I'm going to do the finance. Would be next Tuesday before it.
Are the governance meetings always on Thursday? The first Thursday?
I don't know if they've always been there, but I think since,
Because they're one of the only ones that's like not on the calendar, so I like want to go to it, but I never know like when it is. So they said it was like the first Thursday, that's what I heard, but I don't.
let me double check that with Amy. That sounds right. I think that's what it's supposed to be.
It's like the personnel and the facilities, they're on the calendar, but like the other ones aren't, so like,
Yeah.
I'm like, my two committees are, but the other ones aren't.
Could just be an oversight, because I think we actually have to update this committee's mailing list, because I think we still are on the mailing list.
Wow.
So we've got to update that, but. Awesome, thanks everybody.